Welcome to Negotiation with Alice, your negotiation podcast. Everything that you do where you need to get on the same page with someone else is a negotiation. So whether you have to negotiate a contract with someone, or you simply need your boss to sign off on that program that you'd like to implement, or you want to figure out how to rebalance the chore structure in your home, or talk about what vacation you want to go on. All of these things are negotiations. So in my podcast, we go over both personal and professional conversations, which all are considered negotiation, and I will give you tips on how to come out ahead. Welcome to the show. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Negotiation with Alice. So today I have a really special guest, Alexia, because Alexia, a long time ago, well, I guess it's not that long ago, but a while ago, she was my au pair. And then she continued in school. And so Alexia and I actually lived together previously for like 5 years, right? So welcome, Alexia.
Hi. So, do you want me to introduce me now?
Yep. Go ahead and tell everybody like sort of what you do now and where you are.
Yeah, so I went to college. I moved quite a bit to different state. I'm back in the Bay Area where I started thinking I have a full-time job, but I wanted to do something on the side. So I've now for almost 2 years have been reselling online. It's live stream. I do it on Whatnot. There's many platforms you can do it now. I started just selling my stuff, my clothes, my kids' clothes that were too small, and I kind of grew into finding categories I would want to sell. So I kind of dipped into a lot of different categories until I found two that worked really well for me. And I am now working on eventually helping other people to start their journey in reselling, whether it's on Whatnot or not. It really doesn't really matter where you do it. It's just a matter of how you do it and, the right keys to make it successful. No matter what you do, where you do, it's really a matter of consistency and a lot of other things, obviously. But you can find me on Whatnot at That Girl from Belgium. I do also have a Discord that I just started to help people, and that would also be. You can find my personal profile at That Girl from Belgium, which I think would be the right first step, and then I can invite you to my actual server. So that's what I do aside from the full-time job. And I really enjoy it. And it's been a great journey so far.
That's awesome. I love that story, Alexia. And for my listeners, you might be wondering why I have Alexia here. So Alexia used to work in car sales, right? You want to tell everybody a little bit about that, and then we can go into like what we're going to negotiate today?
Of course. So the first time I moved out of California, I went to live in Las Vegas. And as soon as I got my green card, because, I am from Belgium, I think we didn't even discuss that. I was born and raised in Belgium. So as soon as I get my green card, I looked for jobs. And the first job that I was really interested in was being a salesperson in a car dealership. I got into so many interviews at that one place because they didn't have much faith in me due to no prior experience. And I still got the job and became very successful at it. I worked in other dealerships later on. And, there's just so much that comes down to buying a car as a buyer, but also as a seller. And, we're here talking about negotiating. And I feel like this would be such a perfect topic, whether it's to buy a car or not. I think it's just good things to take out of, being in the car industry for sure.
I'm super excited about the conversation we're about to have. And so in negotiations, like you have, what I normally teach, which are like negotiation strategies and skills. But in every single industry, there's a niche like jargon, there's technical things, there's specific things that you actually negotiate. And so that's why I'm super excited to have Alexia on today, because Alexia, you'll be sharing with us today how to negotiate purchasing a new car. Now, Alexia, about a year ago, helped me purchase my car and helped me negotiate it because she had insider knowledge on the jargon that I should be using, the phrases that I should be using. And so she coached me through that. So I'd love to hear, Alexia, sort of what buyers, like what kinds of things are negotiable when you're purchasing a car, because they throw lots of items at you and they say buy this and there's numbers, and so it can be very overwhelming for someone who is not an experienced car purchaser about what they should be doing and what things are negotiable and what things they can just say leave that aside. So you want to sort of like give us an overview on that?
Of course. Well, it's a lot more complex than it sounds, right? Because obviously, well, depends on, are you buying, are you leasing? As far as negotiating, I believe that anything is negotiable, right? In buying a car. The I think the one thing to really know as a buyer that you don't really know as a buyer is that on the other side, if you were to purchase a used car, I feel like that's where it gets more complicated because people don't really know and they think that's where you make, like, the dealership make most of their money. Is that it really depends on how the dealership buys a car, right? So let's say, Alice, you were to sell or trade in your car to the dealership and you bought a new car, right? So you trade in your car, you buy a new one. They, to maybe make it work, like let's say I helped you do that, I would have made them buy your car for so much money so you could get the best deal, right? So that
Right.
means that the car they took in trade from you, they're already negative more likely because I worked them down so hard and they just went for it. Okay. Because they really wanted a new car sale, for example. So let's say the next person comes in, is interested in your old car. If they try to negotiate on the actual price of the car, it's already going to be tricky because they have to take the car in, do a full inspection, yada, yada, yada. So that's where it can get a little tricky. However, you can always work, as far as if you take a loan, the dealership is able to make money off of the interest rate. So they can always up the interest rate from what they're giving you. And that's something that nobody really knows. I mean, nobody knows about this. They're going to give you, oh, this is a great deal. You have 5.99% interest rate, especially in today's market. It's kind of crazy. However, they could have possibly have a 4.99, but you don't know that because it's between them and the bank. So I feel like the best strategy would be to really work them down, like lowball as really low as you can, be very strict, do your research. When it comes down to loans, you can look at credit unions, look at the websites. Credit unions love to advertise their auto loan, interest rate. And you can threaten them because that's really what you should do. Well, if you're not going to give me the loan, I will go to this credit union because that's what I can get there. And they'll make it work because they can get that interest rate. It's just they don't want to because they want to make money. And that makes sense, right? But I feel like having all the tools necessary to buy a car is really, really important. Like you said, they will charge you for wheel locks. It already comes with wheel locks. Why would you pay for more? It's so many things. I mean, in California it's a little different, but like let's say if you're in Vegas, they will put tint on the car and it's already there and they charge you for it. But if you don't really want to have that, why would you pay for it? And that's a lot of arguments that you will win because you can just say, well, I want you to take them down because I really don't want to pay for that, even though it's already there. And more likely they'll just take down the price, but they won't take down, the tint.
The actual
So
item. Right.
right. So there's just a lot of things that they try to make money off of you from. And I feel like where I would think it's reasonable is to take all those extra stuff down and, try to be where you're comfortable. The research as far as interest rate, depending on your credit, that's a big factor too, but that's something that, each case is different. I think the one thing to know, and that comes down to loan, is that if you're like a tier 1 credit, which means 720 up, okay, so that's tier 1, 720 up credit, that will be my insight, and then you can kind of work from there, would be that every 1,000 is about $20 a month to $25 a month. So you can kind of keep that in mind, knowing that if you were to want a $20,000 car, you're more likely going to pay between $400 a month, I would think, money down, you deduct depending on how many thousand. So it's just to give you an approximate. Obviously, this is not to the to the penny, right? It's really an approximate, but I think it can be very helpful for you to know when you actually go in and see what you're looking for. But there are also a bunch of websites you can do those little estimates, and they will give you, you know, exact estimates. But my biggest advice would really be to look everything at home first. Don't run to a dealership first. Look at a lot of different places, a lot of different cars. Do your research on the interest rate available, depending on your credit as well, because it really will play a big factor. You know, you don't want to go to a dealership thinking, okay, you know, I have a 690, I know I can get this. Well, you don't know, because you don't know what the bank will say. You know, that's why you need to stay open. But having an idea of what the price will be comparing to your monthly payment, it's always good to kind of have that idea, and those website will help you because they will ask for your credit. Even now, most dealership website will provide that without you having to put your information in, because you don't want to do that either. You don't want to start putting your phone number, your email everywhere. You're going to get loaded on advertisement, and every other day you'll get emails. There's no point if you're not committed to go to that specific dealership. It's really going to be a pain for you. Not too much for them because they have nothing better to do. But you know, it's a lot of information I just gave right now. I'm so sorry. It's just so much, you know.
So let's just back up a little bit. So one of the things that I did a lot of when I was purchasing my car is a lot of math, right? A lot of just calculating percentages over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I took Alexia's advice, which is do not run off to the dealership and try to work, because they try to work you over if you're already there in person. Because they're like, great, we have a captured audience. Alice is likely not going to go somewhere else, so we can like kind of hardball her and try. Whereas if it's online or I'm making phone calls, it's a little bit easier to say like I'm going to hang up and call the next person. But beyond that, the numbers. I want to talk a little bit about the numbers and how you have to think about it. Is that I was looking at a car. So last year's 2025. So I was looking at a car that was 2025 versus a car that's 2024. And so
Okay.
sometimes people say, oh, well, it's cheaper because it's a year older, right? But what
Mm-hmm.
is talking about your loan, the percentage, they had a special that the interest on the loan was significantly lower if I purchased a little bit more of an expensive car in 2025 than if I were to get a loan for a 2024. Then when we did the math and the math and the math, and you count out how much you're going to end up paying, it was cheaper to buy the newer car
Mm-hmm.
by the time you pay off the entire like loan for that car, right? Doesn't that
Yeah.
happen as well?
A lot, yes, actually. But I do want to piggyback on the phone call part and not rushing to the dealership. So that's also, it could be tricky because I recently helped somebody to buy a car, and it was tricky in a way where they didn't really take the buyer seriously because they were just doing it through the phone. So, you know, they kind of put you as to the side. You know, you're not a priority. And that's what a lot of dealership will say, is that your presence is your leverage, which is true. But if you come very strong, I think, and you're very confident in like the way you talk, and you know, saying how you really want to buy this car, and you know, you're very serious about it, sure, they may not really believe you. However, the one thing to really really insist of is follow up. So you kind of reverse the role, right? If you're not going to go in person, you're going to be the one as the buyer to follow up with the seller. You know what I mean? Because like I said, they're not really going to be 100% into you, because like you said, you're not there. They can't really grasp on you, right? So that's the one thing to really really keep in mind, is that you cannot just be like, hey, I'm interested in this, give me information on that. You know, they might not do it, so you're gonna have to follow up. And as you're following up and keep texting or calling them, they're gonna understand at that point, oh, she really wants to buy a car, or he really wants to buy a car. Okay, so that's the one little detail to really keep in mind, is that it's a little bit more work as a buyer to do it from home, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. It's worth the extra calls.
Right, right. And you know, I was calling about a used car prior to that to a dealership, and I feel like
Mhm.
this exactly the scenario that you described was happening, where the guy was like, this is my rock bottom price. If I give you anything else, I'm losing money on this car. He's like, I'm literally just giving it to you for how much I paid for it. And he was not interested in negotiating. He just
Hmm.
said, later,
Yeah.
goodbye, hung up.
Right.
And he basically gave me he didn't quite say, but he gave me the impression that he did not want me to call him back. So he wasn't even interested in negotiating. He's like, I'm losing money on this car as it is. So I'm guessing that what you said happened where maybe they took the car on, they like valued it more than what it was worth by a little bit. And so therefore he was like not willing to budge on that. Do you think that maybe what was going on?
That and the fact that you weren't present, it's not like you were there, you test drove the car and you're interested in it. The thing with having those cars in red already, there's so many things that play a part to that too. Is that these cars will more likely sit on the lot for a very long time, where they're gonna have to lose more money eventually and reduce the cost of the car regardless, right? So I feel like if you were present in the dealership wanting that, you know used car, they could have probably worked a little bit depending on how long the car's been on the lot. And I know, 6 years ago maybe there was a way to see how long the car's been, on the websites. I don't know if it's still up to date, but that's something you could also pay attention to, is how long the car has been at the dealership, because that can help you. That's more weapons for you to work with them. You know what I mean? But I don't know. There's so many things. He could think you were not serious. He could not want to sell because it's already in the red. But the one thing you could have said back is, well, it's fine. You'll make money on another car, because that's true. And that's how business are. You make some, you lose some. It has to have that balance. And it's the same in the car industry. They'll make more money on a car and they'll lose some money on a car. That's just the way of life, I feel like, in every industry and everything. It's kind of like us. And just something you've told me years ago, you have to spend money to make money.
Right. Right.
So I think that kind of plays along with this. But before I forget to respond to your old and new car question, yes, there is a lot of offers they will have for certified cars. And I don't know if that 2024 and 2025, if they were both certified. I'm not sure, if they were talking about an outside bank, because that too, a lot of outside banks, when it comes down to auto loan, a year older is, because I've worked in finance as well. So I worked in banks and I did loans and I did auto loans as well from that bank. So in the bank I worked at least, the way it was is that the same year and 1 year older was one interest rate, but it was fixed. And I know not all banks are fixed like that. They have the credit tiers. We didn't have that in my bank. But so the new car and 1 year older is the same interest rate. And then as soon as you go to like the third year, right? So we go to 24 all the way to maybe 2021, there's another interest rate. And then it goes higher as it gets older. And then to a certain year, they don't even give loan. So it was a very specific way they were doing it. And a lot of banks don't do it this way, but that could be one of the reasons. The other thing with dealerships too, is that let's say we are at Honda, okay? And you're looking at a Honda Civic from 2025 that is certified. They could have like a 0.99% interest rate on all the certified. It won't be necessarily 2025. It could be a 2022 that is certified. It's just certified car in general. If they're trying to move their certified vehicles, they will do those kind of offers like, oh, you get an extra 1,000 off. You get 0.99% for like 60 months or 48 months. It's usually not too long of a loan. So you would want to look at that, because sometimes that's better than buying a new car that's at, their special would be like 3.99% for the same term, right? What is a year going to do to your car? Nothing. It already depreciated, which is to your advantage because you're spending less money and the car will lose less value right away, right? So that's the other thing to consider, is buying a new car could be good, but not all the time, right? It's just so much to really think about when you buy a car, and it's so overwhelming. It's like the second biggest purchase after a house, right? So it can be very, very overwhelming. But my advice to most people now is not to buy new. I don't think it's smart to buy a new car. There's also a lot of manufacturers that are a smarter investment than others. Leasing is also something, I don't know if you want to get into that today, but leasing is a whole different, subject when it comes down to lease a car versus buying. But yeah, to answer your question, it can definitely be better to buy newer when it's older, depending on, the banks and everything. And that's the thing you have to research. The dealership will never give you those tools. Never. They will not tell you, oh, you know what? Unless you know them personally. That like that's them pretty much going against their business, right? Because
Right.
they're giving you out their secrets.
Right. So like, okay, so research, so people can go in and they can research what auto loans are out there, what the percentages are, what the terms are. And then when they show up, I'm hearing you say that people can still try to negotiate the interest rate when they're being given an auto loan right there in the office with the seller. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they need to be realistic too on the research. If you live in California, you can't be looking at a credit union out in Florida. That makes no sense, right? So the credit unions would be your best bet for the best interest rate. They're the most competitive out there. You want to look at different credit unions within your area because that's more likely what the dealership will be able to, obviously get. Because not all dealerships works with the same banks. Obviously, the big banks, yes, but when it comes down to credit union, it would be what's local, right? And that's if because not all dealerships work with them. But yes, that is definitely a tool you can use because if you have a local credit union, and you could even do that if the dealership is like, no, I will not give you this for 3.49 and percent. You can be like, okay, fine. Well, then give me the out the door number, and I will go to that credit union. And I'll come back with a cashier's check.
Right.
Like nothing stops you from doing that either. So at the end of the day, it comes down to what's best for you. And if what's best for you is to get a loan that's not in the dealership, by
Right.
it's just, it really comes down to what is best for you. It doesn't matter you give your loan to the dealership or not. If your local credit union will have a better interest rate and they don't want to give it to you, or they cannot give it to you because sometimes they really can't, you don't know, right? And I wouldn't know that either because I don't work in a dealership locally either. And who knows, maybe you're not even in California or Nevada because that's the only two states I have knowledge. Well, maybe New York a little bit. I encourage, and I've encouraged customer to go to the credit union. They told me, they're like, well, we have this rate. I'm like, well, then I suggest you to rent there and come back to me with a cashier's check of that amount.
Right.
And yeah, and you want to kind of have the at the door number as well, even if you do work alone, because if you don't have an at the door number, they can kind of hide like an extended warranty or like, a special maintenance package that they're not going to show because they can add it on and not show it on the paper they give you to look at prices, right? So
So
having that out.
let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about the out the door number. Sort of how
Okay.
do people get to that out the door number? What does that actually mean? Because I feel like I kind of understand, but it also sounds like it's a terminology that you use in that
It is.
industry, right?
It is, yeah. So the paper that you get given when you go to the dealership or when you ask for numbers, okay, that paper we call, our jargon is a pencil. We call that a pencil, okay. So you could try to, you know, be a knowledgeable person and be like, I want to see a pencil on this car. So they will know that they need to give you numbers, okay. And on that pencil, if you ask for a lease or a loan, they don't really even have to show that out the door number. That out the door number is basically the total cost of the car, not including your interest, okay? Just the total cost of the actual car. So that would be like let's say your car is $20,000, you'll have the $20,000, your $2,000 taxes, whatever state you're in. It may include your registration, it may not. You'll have the document fees. Usually that means, the fees you pay when you're in finance, which that, again, depending on the state, some state you have those, some you don't. If you do have them, that's non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate document fees. So it's just all the paperwork that's done through finance. That's a non-negotiable price. And then they'll add on those extra stuff like the wheel locks, and so everything should really be written down. But when it comes down to like a maintenance package, for example, or gap, which if you loan, you want gap if you don't put too much down. but that they can just like remove the little mark, and then it won't show on the paper, right? But as a buyer, you can add all these price down, and then at the bottom you'll have your at the door. If you're like 3,000 more than all these numbers, obviously that means they're hiding some stuff. And so you can point it out and be like, well, why is it showing 25,000 when it should only be like 22,500 or whatever, right? And that's when they're not expecting this, because not a lot of people do that, and they'll be like, oh shoot, in their mind, right? And so they're like, okay, we'll be back. Or they'll confront it with it, and they'll be like, well, like they added some nice things for you, but finance will discuss that. You know what I mean? Like they could be like that too. Your answer should be simple and easy. Well, I don't want to see that. If I want to buy anything in finance, I'll figure out in finance, which you shouldn't say that either, because then finance will work you very hard and try to sell you anything they can. But some people are comfortable buying stuff. I mean, I know people that buy extended warranty, and they want that. They want that, reassurance that their car is covered no matter what, even though it's not no matter what. Like I am anti all of that. I feel like the only thing I would really buy is Gap.
Explain what Gap is.
So Gap is pretty much covering your loan. If you were to get into a car crash, let's say you just bought the car, you're loaning $20,000, you get into a crash, and it's gonna cost you 25,000, right? Well, that Gap insurance will cover the 5,000 you owe on top of your loan, basically. Yeah, it'll just cover everything. So it's just like it'll cover the 20 and the 5, right? Like it'll just save you basically from owing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I suppose then let's say that I get into a car accident just, I don't know, 1 week later, and I have this loan, and the whole car is totaled, and we just have to put it into the dump. So that Gap will cover.
Correct. It will cover your loan. It will, yeah, it will cover you from owing. I mean, it's not really something that could happen, but it could. I mean, you never know. So, and Gap is also like a very different price depending on what state you're in. I know California and Nevada is the same. It's $9.95. They make money off of that. They could go a little lower, like it's not their cost, which I wouldn't fight that either. I mean, they need to make their money somewhere. But like New York is $120 or $140, which is an insane difference in price. But yeah, so every state will be different pricing. So that obviously I can't really help you. You can do your research on how much it costs. But that's the one thing that I really recommend getting, no matter what. Unless you're putting 20,000 down and you're loaning 10,000, on a $30,000 car, obviously that makes no sense. But not a lot of people do that. So
okay. So, and then I also want to talk a little bit about what you already mentioned. So you mentioned a lot of the add-ons, whether it's extended warranty or whether it's like 12 months of service that you prepay, like all the different things, right? So someone going in, especially if they feel like there's a power imbalance, where I am someone who I feel like, okay, I don't really know much about cars. I'm going to go into the dealership. Now I'm negotiating with an expert in cars, and now they're trying to sell me, right? So there's this power differential. So talk a little bit about each of those things, right? The add-ons.
Okay.
And how people can just let them know, like, I don't want this. You mentioned it earlier, but just to be able to be firm and say, I'm going to decline this. I'm going to decline. Because a lot of times I had the same experience. I went in and they were sort of bullying me, saying, I said, I don't want this. I don't want this. And he kept coming back, and it was still on the pencil. It was on the paper over and over. And I asked him 5 times, please remove this extended warranty. I don't want it. And it still showed up. So talk a little bit about how people can negotiate if they're feeling the power differential, if they're feeling overwhelmed, if they're feeling like out negotiated. What can they say when these different things are showing up?
So I fear that negotiating is not part of that. The best course of action would be just to threaten them. It sounds kind of silly, but it really is the only way for them to really make a move. It'd be like, listen, if you're not going to listen to me and you're not going to take that off of that paper that I've been telling you to take off, I'm just going to leave. I mean, they're being pushy. It's just it's not really an environment you want to be in to begin with. I wouldn't even want to give my business to somebody that's pushy like this, right? Unless because you got to think about it, right? If the salesperson is allowing their manager to keep that on the pencil on, you know, I think we know what a pencil is by now. But if it, as a salesperson, like if I were to allow my manager to leave that on, that means I'm not doing my job properly, right? Because they need to listen to the buyers. It doesn't matter, you know. Some dealerships make money off of their gross, like as salespeople. Some not. Obviously, if they are making money based off of gross, that means they will want to sell you everything they can. However, I'm sorry, but if you have people that are committed to buy, you'll make money no matter what, right? Just listen to them. And I feel like the only thing you can really do is to just say, I'm going to leave. There's plenty fish in the seas when it comes down to buy a car. You can buy cars from anywhere. And I think that it's already overwhelming as it is. It should be a good experience for you. And your salesperson will really be that person that will give you that experience. So if they're already not listening and you have to tell them more than 2 times, like even the first time, they shouldn't come back with it. But you know, let it slide one time. If they come back the third time with the same thing that you already said you don't want it, you can just get up and say, hey, I just can't do this. You know, I've asked you to take this off multiple times. I don't really care about what it is, or I don't want to hear about your finance manager telling me what it is when I come down to sign, you know, the contract. So clearly there's a problem here between you and I and you understanding my needs, you know, so goodbye. And I guarantee you, 99.9% of the time, they will run and be at your feet like, okay, it's fine. This is like, you know, they'll go to the managers and they'll get, you know, scolded by the managers because why did you let them run off? And even though
right,
it was something that I could see coming, right? Then they'll have a new pencil and they'll probably run to you at the car and be like, oh, here it is, you know. But there's things to avoid coming down to that. And I think like being firm from the get-go and be like, I do not want to see this. And this is part of why you want to have all your tools in hands, right? Like, listen, I don't want anything from finance aside from Gap, if that's what you want. If you buy in cash, obviously you don't. But saying this will show them you have knowledge. Like, I want to see a pencil with like a 60, 72 months option. I want to see like 2, 3, 4,000 down or 0 to whatever you want. Okay. You make the rules. You need to make the rules. You need to put your foot down and make the rules as the buyer and tell him exactly what you want. If you're very specific of what you want and they're not providing that, I mean, do you really want to give them your business? You know what I mean? Right. So going there and really be like, okay, this is what I want. This is the term I want. This is the options I want for money down. I don't want to see any of the extra. I just want the sales price of the car, you know, obviously your taxes. And then I do want to see Gap included so I can get myself an idea. And if they don't put it in by any means, you know, it's going to be like an extra like $20 a month or something, right? So if you tell them, if you say all of that to a salesperson and they cannot provide you with that information back, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's possible for you to give all that information for them to go up to their manager and them not delivering what you asked.
Right.
So and if they don't, sorry, but if they don't and come back to you with things that you didn't ask for, I would be a smartass because they're smartass. I would say, well, I think you should have written all this down because clearly you didn't hear me the first time.
Right.
You can be mean. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't this the country of the buyer's king? You know? Isn't it? I'm sorry. That's what I've always heard, you know? And that's what we say in French for here. It's not like this in Europe, but that's how it is here. So they should treat you as that.
So it sounds like you're going to go in to purchase a car to really have knowledge about what you're going to talk about. And even from this short podcast, to understand some of the jargon, some of the technical things that you need to be asking for, or even rejecting, right? To say, I don't need this, right? Because you've at least educated yourself to know, you know what, this is actually this is an upsell. I can pay this as I go, or I don't need this. Or what was it that you said that's already on there that they're trying to tack on? The wheel, something about the wheel.
Wheel lock.
So talk about like, so they're already tacking a price on that's already exists on the car, or can you talk about what that is?
So when you look at the sticker, so you know the big paper of the car where you have the actual price. So that comes in every single car from the factory. Okay. So the factory ships the car, and then you have this Monroney sticker. I can never know how to say it because it sounds like Monroe sticker, but I still don't know to this day exactly how it's called, but we
But
just
it
call
has
the sticker
everything
price.
listed, right? Everything that the
So
car.
everything is listed on there, exactly. So you'll have like how much it costs to ship the car to the dealership, and then it'll add all that's in there. And then on the side, like the added equipment, which like at Hyundai, for example, I know they put some nets in the trunk. Then you'll have the wheel locks and all of that. And the thing is that the dealership add on wheel locks.
So they add a price on there for
So
wheel
it's already,
lock.
yeah, it comes from the dealership, yes.
And
And then the
minus
dealership, they added two, like they added another pair of wheel locks as well. It's not going to be located in the same spot. And obviously I'm talking about one dealership. They might not all do that, right? Like everything is different. Well, three, three dealerships, but they might not all do that. I said wheel locks because that's just a funny one, but there's also something else. I can't remember what it's called. Uh, it's like a sticker that they put like in six different location in the car, and it's in case the car gets stolen. That company, right? The stickers thing they put, that company will like, if they cannot locate the car, they will pay out $5,000.
Okay.
I mean, really, the chances are. Plus, in today's age, what like most people, they can locate their car on their phone. You can have an app now with most of the cars, and really the chances are it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I always seen that as a ridiculous add-on, but I mean, it's just a way for them to make money, and it makes sense, but at the same time it's like you don't need it.
Right.
You don't need it. And it's just so many things. Like they have door edge guards, which, I mean, I like that, right? It's like a film that they put on the edge of the doors. So if you were to hit another car, like that film will protect your paint, right? And so they have door and handle edge guards. Okay, so that's like the standard thing they will put on the cars, and it's great. It's really great. Do you have to pay for it? Not really, but it's great. I like having it on. They're not going to take it off if you don't pay for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they also have like a film for the whole hood as well.
Oh,
And
okay.
some dealerships will do that. Like when I bought my car here in California, they actually screwed me over big time. Like they never talked about any of the extras and sold me all the extras. So yeah, it was a really, really bad purchase, which is what made me kind of go into the car industry, is because I'm like, I don't want anybody to go through that. I think that I was a big, big ripoff, and they upsold me on so many things. And as a first time buyer, I didn't know better. I had great credit, and they just took advantage of that. They
Right.
took advantage of me in so many ways possible that I just wish this to nobody, because it was a very awful aftermath, really, and
Right.
financially really hard. So yeah, so there's all these little things that they won't try to sell it to you. They'll just add it onto the price because it's already there. They won't really, they will try to sell you extra, maybe like a paint protection or whatever, like in finance, but
So I think it's a good thing for people to know that even though something's already been added, like let's say, I don't know, some fancy speaker system that's already been added to
okay,
the
no,
car.
that's different though.
Oh, it's different. Okay. So, okay.
Because that wouldn't be added to the car.
Okay. So
You know what I
give me an
mean?
example of something that might be added already by the dealer before they even show up to sell it to you.
So it wouldn't be anything to modify the car itself. It will be more things that will be added onto the car.
But it's good to know that as a buyer, you can say, look, I know you put this door edge on there, but I don't want it, so take that price off. Because I feel like sometimes people might go in thinking, oh, it's already on there, I guess I'm going to have to pay for it, so okay, it's added to the price, right? To know that you can say, I don't want that, and then more than likely the price will come off, but they may not necessarily take off the thing off the
Right.
car, right?
Yes. However, I have seen some rare cases where the seller would be like, okay, well, if you don't want that, you can just buy an incoming car, right? And so like it'll be a car that's in transit or that's going to be here next week that they allocated, whatever the case may be, and then they wouldn't touch the car, so they would just sell you the car. They will inspect it and sell it as is and not add anything on. I've seen times where they do that because they really cannot really afford to take all of it off, right? Because they still paid. If it's a new car, we're talking about a brand new car, okay, just for brand new cars, they still obviously like pay some sort of labor to do all that, right? But again, if it's not something you asked for and it's not something you want, you can ask to take it off. And if they really, really, really insist on not taking it off, you can be like, okay, well, what car do you have in coming that I can buy so you don't put it on,
Got it.
right?
Yep. Yep.
For used cars, because that's also very important, any like certified car or used car, and especially certified cars, they will sometimes still try to charge you for all these things. But that was already there from when it was new. So why
Right.
would you charge me twice? So that's, I think that's a good thing to know and to have, an argument about, because why would I pay for it when the first buyer bought, like whoever was the first buyer paid for that, right? Technically, they have
Right.
supposedly they paid for it. So if it's a used car, it's a lot easier to negotiate and to really argue, because don't tell me you took off the door edge guard and put new ones in. Come on, that didn't happen,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
So yes, on a used car, it's definitely easier to negotiate than on a brand new car, but it's always negotiable on a new car anyway. They make more money on new cars than used cars to begin with. So
I mean, I
yeah.
think so the biggest takeaways are negotiate the interest rate if you're going to be getting a loan. And I like
Mm-hmm.
suggestion. We didn't talk about it here today, but when you're working with me, you did say, and you kind of touched on it earlier about asking for, give me a 3-year, like,
Options.
scenario. Yeah, options. Give me a 4-year, give me 5-year, right? 60 months, whatever, that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I think that, and when we did that, I want my listeners to know we did so much math. We did all the math of how much the car would cost if I did it in 3 years, and this interest rate versus this interest rate over 4 years, over 5 years. And so we did math, and I just was adding
Yeah.
and adding and adding. So you see the total amount. So you're not just going in looking at the numbers that they're trying to do like this magic trick where they're like, here's this beautiful like price that you have. And in the end, you're actually paying significantly more because you weren't paying attention to the interest rate that they were giving you. Right. So to
Right.
like really focus
Yes.
on that as well. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing is to make sure that you negotiate all the extras off if you don't want them, that you have the power to negotiate them off.
Correct.
And another thing, if you're dealing with a very pushy salesperson, that one of your negotiation tactics is to be able to just get up and leave and say, I'm just not going to work with you. I'll go down the street to find someone else, which is actually what I ended up doing. And so I walked up. And what's interesting, I want to mention, when I was dealing with that dealership that was fairly pushy with me,
Mm-hmm.
they do things to make you psychologically feel bad about leaving because
Yes.
I went
Yes.
in and I didn't have a car because mine broke down. So I went on a Lyft, and it was later in the evening. So they were going to close. So they said, we'll give you a loaner. So they gave me the loaner car, which means I got one of their new cars to drive home, keep overnight, and come back the next day. Well, that is like a sales tactic because they're like, okay, she's going to feel indebted
Hoping
to
you come back.
because, well, number one, I have to come back to return the
Mm-hmm.
car. And
Mm-hmm.
number two, I'm going to feel a little bit like obligated to maybe buy from them because they were nice enough to loan me the car. They ended up losing my business because, like, even though they loaned me the car, they were so pushy and they were so unwilling to remove those extras when I asked them to. That Alexia was like, just leave, Alice. She's like, don't give them your business, and so I ended up leaving, and so that was a whole story. But yeah, so they do these psychological things to try to make you more indebted to them, right?
Yes, I wanted to mention that actually about it, because you were saying how, like having all these tools in hands and coming in and kind of knowing. The one thing is to be careful of that, because a lot of these, either, the salespeople, more likely if you're in person and it's not working out, they'll send out their manager, and then it's maybe even not a manager. It might just be another salesperson that's called a closer, or like just a better salesperson. Who knows? Managers rarely come out. Rarely come out. It's really not something that happens much, but it's really something to take in mind, that they will try to, like you said, like psychologically, like make you feel either guilty that you have to buy, or make you believe they're giving you the deal of the century, or making you believe that what they took off is incredible. And really it's hard, because it's the same when you go into finance and they try to sell you that, let's say that they try to sell you that maintenance package. Well, just imagine you don't have to pay for an oil change for the next 5 years. Isn't that incredible? and you're like, that sounds good. And it's only $20 a month, but you add that up to the 60-month or 72 months loan. And it turns out instead of paying for a $60 oil change you should be paying for, you're paying like $180. You know what I mean? So it's really things you have to put your foot down and don't let them bully you mentally, because that's ultimately, in my opinion, what they do is that they're mentally bullying you, or they're mentally like they're gaslighting you, right? So yes, it's hard. It's hard. It really is. Some salespeople and some financial like people are very smart, like very smart the way they talk and very good at what they do. So yes, it's something to just say no, no, you don't want to hear about it. Don't even let them talk to you about it. Oh, I have this product for you. I'm okay.
Right.
Yes, but no, I'm okay. Cut them off. Just say no. Because if you know that mentally you're a little on the weaker side or more like gullible side, and like it's no shame to that. I think it's just some people are more, trusting than others. And if you're on that side, you don't want to hear about it. You just don't. It's better for you not to listen to it than maybe listen to it and then have buyer's remorse.
Right.
Which if you do, I'm sorry, but we need to have this other information. If you do have buyer's remorse, you always have the chance of canceling. So let's say you do fall for it and you buy an extended warranty, and then you go home and you kind of, let's say you read the contract, which I don't know, I don't think much people do, but you realize that you already have a warranty on the car. Why would you have an extra warranty? Like you don't know what's going to happen in 4 years. Maybe you'll sell the car, And so you just realize like, oh, damn, I don't want this warranty. You can call back and say, hey, I want this to be canceled.
Okay.
They'll rewrite the contract. Obviously, you only have a few days to do that, because once the contract is sent in to the bank and everything is closed down, you can still do it. They'll like do a prorated refund on the total cost of the loan or whatever. But, the interest will already be accounted for and everything. But usually you have a few days to be able to be like, okay, I don't want this. I changed my mind. And they may try to persuade you otherwise, but you can, put your foot down and do it. So it's never really too late, right? There's always ways to really go about all of that. Canceling, even if it's 2 years later, you can still cancel. I mean, you'll probably have lost most of, the cost of it, but I will say it's never too late when it comes down to canceling things that you purchased. But I'm hoping with all this information, it won't come down to that, right? Unless it's your own will and you really want to have all these securities that is not really important on a new car. Again, we're talking about newer car, okay? I don't want people to be thinking I'm going to go and buy a 2012 Chevrolet Cruze and not get an extended warranty and then it's going to come back to me. Obviously, we're talking about newer car. Older car, I would encourage to hear them out, right? Because you may want some sort of warranty. And yeah, that's a whole different story. It's a whole other conversation. So for today, we're just going to kind of focus on newer cars, like certified new, or cars that still have like their manufacturing warranty or whatnot. So yes, so that's something I wanted to kind of point out as well. And then for the terms, like you said, a lot of numbers. I personally, Alice, I'm not going to lie, I still use my connections when it comes down to do numbers, because they can just plug it in for me in the computer, whatever I give them. And I think I did that for you. So I'm kind of cheating, but at the same time, it's so complicated. If you go on those websites, it's not always accurate. It is good to have just as a base, but it's not always accurate because there's so much more that comes down to it. That I use my connections. If I want to buy a car, if I have a friend that wants to buy a car, I use them and I'm like, hey, is this good? Tell me what's wrong,
Right.
Because when it comes,
yeah, I love the fact that you pointed out that any extras, like the maintenance, all those things, while they sound cheap, the thing that we don't consider or may not necessarily consider is the fact that we're paying that interest on that loan, because
yes,
it gets all wrapped up. So it's not $20; it's $20 times whatever
60.
Yes.
Plus the interest.
Plus the interest, and you're giving them a bunch of money, and that money could be sitting in your bank making money for you. Instead, you're giving it to them for future maintenance as well as the interest. that you're getting charged. So it does end up being very expensive. So those are things that are really good to think about,
Mhm.
because I don't think that people necessarily equate like, oh, we're adding all these extras, and they're not
Yep.
thinking, oh, I'm going to pay, whatever interest I'm paying on these extras as well.
Hmm. And it never really makes sense anyway. It just sounds good at the moment, and they try to get you on the moment, right? So it sounds good at the moment, like, oh, only $20 extra a month. That's not bad. And I'm covered all this time for all of this, but no. It's just something, and because they're trying to get it quick so you don't think too much, That's why I said you can always come back the next day or call and cancel it out and do all that. So that's good. The one last thing I want to say, and that would be about loan. You just reminded me something. If you were to go buy a car and for whatever reason, let's say your car, you wanted to add a tow, like a hitch, or if you want to add those rails, whatever. Let's say you want to add some add-ons from service, right? If it's a certified or new car and it's going to be like a few $1,000s, there is an option. And I think a good salesperson will let you know that, but I think it's always good to know as a buyer, you can add anything into your loan. Okay. So I feel like even though it's not on the car yet, you can ask them to be like, hey, I'm going to do this with service, even if it's next week, right? I'm going to do this work with service. Could you just add it to the loan and my numbers, right? So you can have an idea of the price difference as well. Like, can I see it with and without it? Because you might not want to spend 2,000-3,000 right away.
Right.
And I know a lot of people that will need certain things, like people go skiing, people, like surfing, like they will need all these kind of add-ons. So it's always good to know that it's possible to always add things to a loan if you don't necessarily want to either pay cash for it, or I mean, if you have a great interest rate, why not? If you have 0.99 or 0%, it may still be a thing here and there.
Right.
It's always great to know, if it's 0%, I mean, who cares? Might as well. So yeah, that's an option as well.
That's fabulous. And I don't think I ever told you this, but I gave your all of your advice to a friend of mine last year, and he saved like $5,000 on his auto purchase that he said he would not have saved without your advice. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, that's great. So you're telling me I should be charging you and him a fee? Is that what it is? It's great. No, I love that. I love that. I think it's really important, to share knowledge, no matter where it comes from, no matter what kind of knowledge. I think it's really important for anybody to have tools for anything in life, whether it's buying a car, buying a house. I mean,
absolutely.
Even going shopping, do your hair, who knows? I think just having the knowledge and be able to share it with people is really important. And it just makes me happy, like saving that much money. And like you said, he wouldn't have without all that knowledge, because
Right.
it's things you don't necessarily know if you've never been in the industry. I wouldn't have known. I just said I got screwed over, and
Right.
I got screwed over, like I think it was between $10,000 to $12,000.
Yeah,
It was really bad. It was bad. So yes, definitely, and that's part of why I want to help people, and I've sold cars because I wanted to help people. And
well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge today.
of
If they
course.
want to get in touch with you, or even check out your whatnot, what's the best way for them to reach you and connect with you?
Okay, so I think I briefly mentioned earlier. So my handle on Whatnot, which is easy access if you have the app, would be That Girl from Belgium. So it's kind of the catchy name I came up later on. And like I said, I have a Discord. So I think Discord, if do you know what Discord is?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay. So on Discord, I have the same handle. Sorry, you broke up for a second. On Discord, I have the exact same handle. So if you want to add me on Discord, and like I said, I recently started a server that is kind of linked to what I do, whether it's on Whatnot or like soon I'm gonna start Twitch as well. So there's so much things that I'm like working on right now. It's a little crazy, but Discord would be a good way too, especially if you want to get in touch with other people, and if you want to have some tips, tricks on how to sell, or on anything really. I mean, I have multiple like categories that are for various things. I have a lot of people that are from different backgrounds, different categories, different things. But I would say add me on That Girl from Belgium, and then I can invite you to the server. It's just going to be hard for me to say the server. Well, the server name is TGFB Royal Court is the name of the actual server. So it's
We
like
can
that girl from
say
Belgium's
that.
initials, Royal Court, basically. So yeah, so that would be the best way. And you can always, if it's something related to, you need help to buy a car, I would happily discuss, further information or further, whatever you're looking for. I would say add me on the Discord on my personal, like just add me on that girl from Belgium, and then we can discuss there. The server is more for like overall information, or like if you just want to kind of join and see how the fun is. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we'll have Alexia's information on the show notes, so you can check them out there. So Alexia, thank you so much for being with us today.
No, thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
It was. And thank you listeners for being listening in on the show once again, and until next time.